Okay, guys, we will go ahead and get started. So, hi everyone, welcome. I am Sally. I am the Chief of Staff here at Auggie. Auggie is the #1 parenting platform for parents to find community, share recommendations, and learn from experts. I am so excited for today's event, Babble Bootcamp, and it's going to be led by one of our amazing experts, Jocelyn Wood. Jocelyn Wood is a mom, a speech therapist, a parent coach, and an author. And Jocelyn's going to go through some tips and share some simple recommendations to help our little ones become early communicators. Jocelyn, I will pass it over to you.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here from near and far. Like Sally mentioned, I am first and foremost a mom, but before that, I was a speech therapist. So I am going to be sharing with you my clinical experience, but I think more importantly, my mom experience, which really put me down to earth and took me down a level when I saw that the things that I do clinically don't always work when you're a mom. I'm just going to share my screen here. Welcome to Babble Bootcamp. I am going to be going through how you build the foundations of language. And I think that this is going to be amazing for so many of you in here because you have very young children. You have kids that are under a year old. Some of them are just over a year old, but this is the perfect time for you to really get involved and help build the foundation for your child's language skills because language really does start before you hear those first words. And we can really do a lot of things at home to help to support our children and help to support their development. So, I'm Jocelyn. I am a pediatric speech therapist and a mom. My son, Lucien, will be 3 in December. But before he came along, I was a pediatric speech therapist in elementary schools. I also did early intervention services. I've been in practice for 19 years now, and I have seen it all. I've seen kids ranging from a few days old up until 18 years of age. Some of my very first few day old clients are graduating high school, which is very humbling. And more recently, I have been out there doing a lot of public speaking events. I've been featured by Parents Magazine, The Bumps, Forbes, Fatherly. During the pandemic, decided to author a bunch of children's books. And last year, I came out with my book, Teaching Talking, which everybody who is live today will be entered to win a free copy that I will send to you along with this cute little magnet that you can put on your fridge and keep track of your child's first words. So I want today to be fun. I want it to be interactive and I want it to be easy for you because we're busy parents. Nobody has time to go on Pinterest and buy a million different craft supplies and make some like really cute little cardboard box thing. I used to think that I was going to be that parent, definitely not that parent. And yeah, I want this to be things that you can take away from today and use this afternoon. So we're going to go through what's typical, what really you should be paying attention to in terms of milestones. By no means do you need to be a milestone expert. We're going to talk about when you should be thinking about getting support and how to go about doing that and how to get these ideas incorporated into your daily life without building extra time into your already too busy schedule. I'll be sharing a bunch of videos today. They are mostly of my son because that's what I have the most access to, and he's 3, so it was really perfect to kind of show you his language journey. So, before I get started, I do like to say that every child grows at their own pace. And I know that we can go on the internet and really get bogged down in the comparison game and kind of see what other kids are doing and be like, oh my gosh, my kid's not doing that. My kid's not as clear as that child, or my child has less words. Everybody is coming from different circumstances, and every child has their own personality, their own learning styles, and we do need to honor that about our children. So right out of the gate, kids are absorbing language, taking language in, and learning how it all fits together. I did a bunch of research in my undergraduate years on how babies starting from birth start to recognize the sounds of all of the languages around them. So it becomes a really awesome time for you to expose children to any languages that you are going to be using with them at home. So from birth to 6 months, kids start responding to sounds. They'll start to turn their head. You'll notice these little like cooing sounds, some like ooh, ooh, ooh. And we really get some of the open vowels of the language that's spoken at home. So it could be an ooh or an ah sound that comes out. And you'll really start to notice towards 6 months that your child is starting to babble. And that might sound like ga, 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 might sound like ba, 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 depending on, again, their learning style, what languages you're speaking. As you get past that 6 month marker, the babbling starts to get a little bit more complex. So you'll start hearing strings of sounds together. Some children will start to bring in different intonation patterns. So it does sound a little bit more like speaking. You'll have that ba, 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 ba. Um, you can start to play some more interactive games like peekaboo, and more importantly, your child will start responding to their name. And then as children get closer to their first birthday, they will start using gestures so they can wave, point. They'll start imitating some new words, hopefully mama. Usually the first words are dad, dad, just because it's a little bit easier for the mouth to say. And they really are understanding what is going on around you. I remember my husband was really surprised when he asked my son to give him a high five, and he's like, oh my gosh, he knew what I was asking him. And he was about 9 months old at that point. So in this video, you will see Lucian is about 3 months old. He's really starting to explore his vocal tract, and we're doing a little bit of back and forth. That conversational back and forth is part of language development, and it's really important that we start to use that and recognize that as early as possible. Okay, one of the things that I like about that video is you can see that he's trying to imitate some of the things that I'm doing with my mouth, and he's only 3 months old, so we're nice and close. We're going back and forth, but that kind of sets the tone and the foundation for all of the fun stuff that comes at 1 year. So, from the time that children are 1 to 2 years of age, so much happens. The difference between a 1 and a 2-year-old is astonishing. Every single week, your kid will be learning a new word. They'll start to understand it first, and after that, they'll be able to say it. So, they'll be able to follow simple directions like, hey, go get your shoes. They'll be able to start pointing to objects in a book and name them. And by the time that they're 2 years of age, they'll be able to start putting two words together. So they can say things like more juice or big dog. These skills are really important for children, but there is a huge gap of how many words is like a good number of words. So usually what we say is by 18 months, children should have at least 10 to 15 words. By the time that they are 2 years of age, they should have around 100 words. These are just kind of like numbers that we throw out there when I'm working with families. I like to think more in terms of quality than quantity. So, is your child using language to make requests and interact with their environment, or are they grunting and tantruming? So, we want them to have some type of functional vocabulary that they are able to use to have their needs met during the day. Um, so in this video, Lucian is about 15 months old, and you can see he's starting to kind of follow intonation patterns, kind of say what I'm saying, but it's not so clear. I
You.
Okay, so slowly but surely, kids will start to build in some of that clarity, but it starts with what I like to call placeholders. We have these intonation patterns that we can pick up from our environment, and within those little patterns, we can start to fill in the words. Another really amazing thing happens between the ages of 2 and 3. This is when you can actually have a conversation with your kid, and it's really fun because they're able to really hold a conversation. They can answer questions. Sometimes they ask you questions, sometimes they ask you too many questions, and they can really be involved around the house because they're much better able to follow directions. So you might say, hey, can you go to the kitchen, get your cup, and bring it back? Or can you find your socks and bring them to me? They can start to really participate in lots of different games and activities because they have the language to support them. So this is when you start seeing kids participate in pretend play. They're able to take care of baby dolls or pretend that they're playing in the kitchen. Right now, my son is really into making, he calls them piggy pizzas, and he'll go in his room and put a lot of toppings on a pizza and tell me about them. And for this age, I would say children are able to be understood closer to 2 years around 50% of the time, and closer to 3 years around 75% of the time. Um, so in this video, you'll see some of these asking and answering questions, the little conversations. And what I want you to notice is that as we add more language, his language becomes a little bit less clear, and that's pretty typical. I would say you'll find the most clarity for children this age between like 2 and 3 words. And the nose. Yeah. Oh, and do you know what these are? Oh, whiskers. Tiny, tiny teeth. We have whiskers. And he, I really like the red. Oh no. What color is your nose? This is the yellow. Yeah. And the red. The red. And the red. Yeah, there's a red bow. Right. And the bow tie. Mm-hmm. A bow tie. There is a bow tie. Okay, so really, like some of those sentences were not so clear, but some of the color words, some of the body parts were able to pop out. He's got nose, he tried to repeat whiskers, it wasn't so clear. And you'll notice that as children are starting to learn a new word, they're learning two things. They're learning what is that word, what does it mean, but also what does my mouth have to do to make those words. And so one of those things is going to hold true. Usually the meaning of the word will stay first, and then the coordination will come after. So now that you know what to look for, I just wanted to go through some times to ask for help. And I know a lot of families go to a pediatrician and they'll have their 15-month appointment and say, hey, my child doesn't really have any words yet. And the doctor will say, oh, don't worry, it'll come. They're just a little behind. And then you might go back for the 18-month appointment and say, hey, my child only has 5 words. And the doctor will say, don't worry, just wait till they're 2. The truth is, it is never too early to seek out the advice of a speech pathologist. Most speech therapists offer free consultation. You're able to call them, talk a little bit about what's happening with your child, and see whether or not it's worth it to get an evaluation. In my history of speech therapy evaluations have never hurt anybody. They are usually play-based and fun for the child, and at the very least, they give parents a plan, which I think is so helpful and supportive. So it's definitely much more supportive than going to a Facebook group and hearing like my sister's brother's cousin didn't speak until he's 4 and he's fine. I think it can feel a little hard as a parent to get that advice when you're noticing that your child isn't speaking yet. Um, so some things to look for, and there's definitely other things. Like I said, if you are concerned, getting a free consult with a speech pathologist is really helpful. But if your child is 9 to 10 months and they're not babbling, that's a really great time to seek out a speech pathologist and also hearing evaluation just to see that your child is hearing sounds. A lot of times, if there's fluid in the ear, that's a really easy fix. You can go to the ENT, they take out the water, and all of a sudden your child is babbling because they can hear what's happening around them. And that can happen with or without an ear infection. By 12 months, you want to make sure that your child has at least 2 or 3 gestures. So, are they waving, pointing, clapping, doing peekaboo? Not necessarily sign language gestures, but other gestures that we use to communicate. And that's going to be really helpful for your child to continue to develop speech and language because they have the gestures to underpin what they're trying to think of to say. Um, by 18 months, if your child has no real words, they might only have like animal sounds or other sound effects, you would want to consult a speech therapist. And by 2 years, if your child has words, but they're not putting them together yet, that would be another concern. You saw what the leap looks like from 1 to 2 and what the leap looks like from 2 to 3. So the earlier that we're able to intervene and give the family some support, the quicker they can be done with therapy and the quicker that they can catch up to their peers. At any age, if you notice that your child is losing any speech, any sounds that they're saying, any social skills, that would be another reason to reach out to a professional to get an opinion on what is going on. I know a lot of people will immediately think, oh my gosh, it's autism, and be really afraid of that. Sometimes it is. It's really great to get support early on. Sometimes it is a hearing thing. Sometimes it is a motor thing. And those are going to be some really helpful things to get support on early on. In most places, you are able to get early intervention services. So in New York City, you call 311. In other places, it's through the Department of Health, and they do free evaluations for babies who are birth to 3. You can do them as frequently as you want. So if you wanted to get one at 15 months and you didn't qualify, and then at 18 months you wanted to do it again, that is your entitlement. You are able to re-request these evaluations as often as you want in any domain that you want. They can be for speech, they can be for physical development, they can be for visual development, or they could just be for play development. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about are some myths that I get around speech development. So I am bilingual. I speak primarily Spanish and English. We also speak some French at home. I have been introducing Spanish and English to Lucienne from birth. And one of the biggest myths I hear is that speaking 2 languages can be confusing to children. As I said from the beginning, the research shows that babies are able to recognize the difference between 2 languages from the day that they're born. So the earlier you introduce it, the better. What happens is your child will start to make these like little sections in their brain. They have a word for dog, and then they'll know that dog means dog and perro, but they won't confuse the 2 languages and it won't delay their speaking. What will happen sometimes is that your child will have certain vocabulary in one language and certain vocabulary in another language. So if you look at a word count for English, it might be a little bit lower, but that's because some of the other word meanings are represented in the other language. Um, Another one is that boys speak later than girls. Professionally, I will tell you this is not true. Personally, I will tell you this is true. My son has a friend that is 1 week younger than him. She is a girl, and she started speaking a few months before him and speaks in a much different way. She was much more sophisticated in her way of speaking much before he was. I find boys, just as an overgeneralization, to be a little bit more active and a little bit more focused on physical play, whereas girls are a little bit more focused on the pretend play. They will eventually kind of meet up somewhere in the middle, but I do think it impacts like how clear their language skills are early on. Um, some kids just speak later than others. Again, like part of this is a myth and part of it is true. Different children have different learning styles. I like to think of like four different subtypes of learning styles. We have kids that are more performers. So they're going to be the ones that are coming up to you at parties and interviewing you and singing for you. We have kids that are a little shyer and they take a long time to warm up. We have children who are more adventurous, and they're going to be the ones that are climbing the furniture at the party. And then we also have the kids that are more observers. So they're not quite shy, but they really want to take everything in and see what's happening before they participate. And I would say observers and shy children tend to be a little bit later to speak than the more adventurous or performer type children. And then if you wait and see, things will get better on their own. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But if it's your child, why do you want to take the risk? You know that by consulting a professional, you'll be able to get professional input and professional knowledge. And I know with my own child, I wouldn't feel comfortable just waiting to see if things would get better if I knew that there was a solution to the problem. You are your child's best teacher. You know what's best for them. You are the one that's able to identify what their learning style is. Um, and I always tell parents, if I'm doing speech therapy with your child, I'm there for 30 minutes a week, maybe 60 minutes a week. You're there the rest of the time. So it's really important to have activities that fit into your day. And I am a huge proponent of building your language activities into your daily routines. So this can happen at any time during the day. It could happen during bath time, which I think is like a really fun and relaxing time to be with your child. I wouldn't advise like doing any of these things as you're rushing to school in the morning, which can be really stressful. But bath time is like that time at the end of the day where you get to connect with your child again. And you can make songs. You can have bath time be really interactive. I do a little song about like wash, wash, wash your hands, make them nice and clean. We do it with all the different body parts, and that becomes part of the routine every single night. Your child begins to learn that routine, that song, that rhythm, and it's a way for them to participate in bath time routine and make bath time a language based routine. We have mealtime. Your children are eating like a million times a day, probably. So this is another really great time to incorporate language skills. This is a time where I like in the early days, so most of you are here right now. This is where I start exposing children to baby signs. We can use a sign for more if a child wants more. We could use the sign for eat if we want the child to ask for food, or for water if we start teaching cup drinking. And I have a video to show you how we do this. As kids get a little bit older, so I would say around like 12 to 15 months, we can start to offer choices. I only have one drink right here, but you could ask them like, do you want water or milk? Hold them both up and see which one your child reaches for. They may not start using the word immediately, and that's okay. By offering that choice, you're providing the motivation for language, and children need the motivation to speak before they are able to actually fill anything in. So if you just ask them, do you want this one? There's no motivation. If your baby goes, and you say, oh, do you want the milk? You're filling in the blank for them. They don't necessarily have any motivation to use language because you're doing the hard work for them. And then we have getting dressed and diaper changes. You can start narrating what's happening. I'm putting your blue shirt on. Let's lift your arms up. Let's put your other arm in. And you're getting that to be part of the routine. Again, this can be a simple narration. You can add a song into it. Whatever you feel comfortable with to make it part of your day. In my book, I have over 100 different activities. Some of the activities are based around the actual events during the day, and you can look them up by the event in the day and say like, oh, what can I do while my child is getting dressed? Or what are the activities that I can do while we're walking through the supermarket? Having that list, having the words that you can pull on while you're in those situations can be so handy and so helpful. So in this video, you'll see Lucien is about 6 or 7 months old, and we're at mealtime, and I am teaching him to use the sign for more. You'll notice that I'm not making him repeat the sign to get what he wants. I'm just kind of showing him what it looks like. And then we're doing the activity together so that he can learn when and how to use this sign. More. Um, Something I'll add in here, this is not necessarily a language-based thing, but a lot of people ask me about when to introduce the cup. And you'll see he's very young here, but we introduce the cup at 6 months of age because kids really are able to learn how to use it. It will make a mess, but they definitely are able to learn what their mouth should do and what their tongue should be doing. And that just helps to make the transition away from the bottle a little bit easier if they know how to use the cup before you start that transition. In this video, he is a little bit older, and you can see some of the strategies that we use at home, some songs, some filling in the blanks, and all of these skills are also really helpful for your child literacy development because you can work on rhyming, you can work on prediction, you can work on knowing what comes next. And those are the types of questions that your child is going to start to have when they enter school. So now that my child is the same age as the child that I do therapy with, I have a lot to show you from what we do during our day. One skill that works really well is filling in the blanks. And the reason why I like that so much is because we can practice rhyming, we can practice prediction of early routines, and we could say one little, two little. Yeah. Four little. Five or six. A figure. Seven little, 8 little. 9 a figure. 10 little. Figure. On my hand. If you've ever met a 2.5-year-old, you know how difficult it was for me to get that footage for you. But you get the point. He loves doing these little routines. It's a time of connection for us, and I'm not taking any time out of my day. That's actually the song that we sing when we're cutting his nails. And we've been singing that song when we cut his nails every single time that I have cut his nails since he was born. He knows that song really well, and he knows that that song means that we're cutting his nails, and so he does mostly sit still, and he loves singing the song, and I am able to get those little claws honed in. um I am a play-based therapist, so I will always tell you the most powerful way to build language skills is to get off your phone, get on the floor, and start playing with your child. And it does not have to be anything fancy. It's kind of like whatever toy they gravitate towards, you can join in with them. You can sit with the magnetiles and build a tower and just kind of comment on what they're doing or show them the next step. Sometimes like when we transition from a puzzle and we transition from that drop-in puzzle where we're putting one piece in at a time and we want to do something a little more complex where we have to find pieces, we can comment on what body parts we're finding. Oh, let's look for the eye, let's look for the nose. So you're working with your child, you're meeting them where they're at, and you're giving them that language that they need to get to the next step. I posted something about this on my Instagram yesterday about reading. I don't ever read the words that are on the page. And I am very happy to admit that. A lot of books that are written for children actually have too many words for their developmental level. And so feel free, take this as permission to start changing the words on the page to suit your needs. So I know a lot of you in this meeting have babies that are 6, 7, 8 months old, so you can focus on sound effects. Boom, pop, uh-oh. You can have animal sounds, moo, woof. You want to be kind of one step before where your child language is. For children who are 1 to 2, you can just kind of point and say, like, oh, look, baby crying, mama walking, and give them a little taste of what is to come. As they become 2, 3 years old, they might be able to sit a little bit longer and hear a fuller story. But I always tailor the books to the needs of the child that I am working with. So this was really just a sneak preview of everything about child language development. If you have more specific questions, like I said, I'm always available for free 15-minute consults for families. I have my book, Teaching Talking, that we're going to auction off a copy of today. It's also available on Amazon. And I have a 6-week program called Babble Bootcamp, where you are able to get video demos that are similar to the ones that I showed today. You will get a weekly routine that you're able to incorporate, and you're able to send me videos of you and your child doing those routines or playing so that I can review them, give you feedback, and help you to support your child at home. Like I said, that is the most valuable way that you can step up and support your child development. And it's a way that I'm able to support families all across the country. I'm going to leave a few minutes for us to answer any questions that you have, but thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. That was amazing. We do have a few questions. I've got some in the chat to me, and if anyone wants to come off mute, please feel free to do that. The first one is from Prathika. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And she wants to know, how is babbling different from early vocalization, the R or the oo sounds?
Yes. Okay. Great question. So early vocalizations are exactly what I say. They are going to be really open. So you'll hear that like, ah, or ooh. And when children start to babble, there are strings of sounds that are together. So they start off as single sounds that are repeated. So something like ba 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 ba. And then they turn into what's called variegated babbling, which would be like ba boo ba boo. So you might hear some difference of the vowels. You might hear difference of the consonants like ba ma pa ga. And then that turns into jargon where it sounds like your baby is having a conversation with you and you have absolutely no idea what they're saying. And that happens right before first word. So somewhere around 10, 11 months, you might hear like, sounds crazy.
It does sound crazy, but thank you. I hope that answered the question. I'm sure it did. We have another one from KS who says, what does intervention actually entail? You mentioned getting a consult if milestones aren't being met, but what would a speech pathologist actually do to help a child pick up skills?
We have so many tools. A speech pathology degree takes about 3 years, and we have a 1 year mentorship period that we go into. So even though it looks like we're just playing with kids, a lot of what we're doing is figuring out what their learning style is, how they respond best. And depending on what's happening with the child, it could involve getting them more comfortable with making sounds with their mouth. It could involve providing families with different ways to structure language. So using fewer words together, offering choices, teaching how to use narration appropriately throughout the day. We can do something called toy talk or parallel talk, where we're able to talk through what the toys are doing or what the child is doing, are really effective. Parent coaching is a huge part of the intervention process, but also play with children.
Okay, thank you. And then another, they're flying in now, the questions. Another from Megan, and she wants to know, does language tend to take a back seat when we're trying to learn to walk?
Yes. So the brain is learning so many different things. One of the myths I did not talk about is that late talkers are early walkers. We cannot possibly learn to walk and learn to speak at the same time. So one of those skills will happen first, and the other will happen next. Kind of like the average age for walking and talking is 12 months. So an early walker would be 9 to 10 months, and an early talker would also be 9 to 10 months. And then it becomes like a late walker or late talker around 18 months. So they should have both of those skills by that age.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Then another from Meredith. She joined late. Can you just quickly tell her what should be expected just before 9 to 10 months?
Sure. So for 9 to 10 months, we should be hearing some babbling and starting some of that variegated babbling that I was talking about, where they alternate through the different sounds. Your child should be responding to their name, and you should also have some gestures.
Okay, and then Sally, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. You sound like my spirit animal because this is me. She says, is it a problem to read all the words on the page because she enjoys the books more than sometimes her own child does, which is me. We read 1 to 2 simple word books as well. Just curious if it is better for them or if it doesn't make a difference if they're doing both.
So I would say, kind of look at your child's response, how well they're sitting. If they're losing interest and moving around or trying to do something else, you're probably inundating them with too much language. Book reading becomes a really nice part of the nighttime routine. So if that's when you choose to read the whole book, that's fine. But when you're doing more focused language stimulation, it is better to kind of approach it as a language learning activity and have fewer words.
Got it. And then one more from Lucy, who says she's from a bilingual home. She wants to speak just French to, she's got one child who she speaks French to, her husband speaks English to, another on the way, and she wants to keep doing this. Her mother-in-law is pushing her to stop because she thinks she's a delayed speaker. Can you just give us some quick things she can say in response to her mother-in-law? The whole
Yes.
mother-in-law thing.
Send your mother-in-law straight to me. I'm going to put her in line. There is absolutely no research to show that it delays your child's language development. It is a gift that you can give them. And if you're living in the United States, English is always going to be the culturally dominant language. So your child will be learning English culturally in school, on television, with neighbors, with friends. But the gift that you can give them at home is French, and they're going to learn it most fluently if you keep up with it early on.
Got it. Thank you. It's a gift. I wish I could give that to my child. I think it's amazing. So I actually have one question for me, Jocelyn. For this city, is there a long wait for getting evaluated? I know for physical therapy, the wait was insane. How
Yeah.
do you know what it's like for speech in New York?
So, yeah, the early intervention system in New York State and New York City is one of the worst in the country, unfortunately. So wait lists tend to be really long. There's not enough people to keep up with the demand, and so people will end up waiting 3 to 4 months to get an evaluation. Legally, they have 60 days to complete an evaluation and hold a meeting for you. And I always advise parents to like hold that over the coordinator's head
Got it.
because they don't expect parents to know the legalities of the early intervention system. The
Got
more
it.
you
So as
know.
soon as the more you know, and as soon as we start to see we think they may need some early intervention, we should just go for it because that wait
Yeah.
is so long.
Yes. And you
Okay.
don't need a referral from your pediatrician. A lot of people think that they need to
Oh
wait for
wow.
a referral from their pediatrician, but it can be a parent initiated referral.
Got it. And then a couple more have actually just come in. Megan says, sadly, our early intervention doesn't enroll you unless you're 75% delayed or greater in speech. Oh, it wasn't a question, just a sad comment.
Yeah, that's for
Um,
therapy. So you can always get an evaluation, but for therapy, you need to be delayed. You have to be significantly delayed to qualify for therapy.
got it. Okay. And then Michelle joined late and she wants to know, my baby is 14 months old and teacher at school is saying she should have more verbal expression by now. Since more than one language is spoken at home, is that an element to her late development?
So again, it's never going to cause late development, but if they're speaking the culturally dominant language at school and you're speaking another language at home, she probably does not have the vocabulary to keep up with the language at school at this point. And so it may look delayed, but it probably is only delayed in English right now.
Got it. Okay. I think that's it for questions. So we can do our giveaway.
Great.
You're ready for that? Okay. If you want to stop sharing and I will share.
Bring up the screen.
Okay, let's go. See. Okay, we are. Drum roll, please. Let's see. Yeah. Bridget, congratulations.
Yay.
Yay, Bridget.
Woo!
Bridget, can you please, I'm going to get your email address. I'm going to email you and ask you for the details so we can mail you this book. Well done, Bridget.
Thank you.
Yay. Okay, just double check there's no more questions. Megan said this event was amazing. I agree. And what I particularly loved at Jocelyn is it was very mom-centered. And I think when you're a mom, you just get it and you've been there. So I took away so many tips that I can use for my own two kids. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to see everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your day, a great weekend. I hope it's nice and warm where you are. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.